Live from Delaware, Pro Saints Talk. Not time to panic after the Saints lose a brutal, heart-piercing game against the Buccaneers. We look forward to the Panthers in Carolina. Will the Saints force Mr. Tepper, or whatever the owner's name is, of the Carolina Panthers to make a decision to fire his head coach, Matt Rule, after the game, send him back to college? This one's short, jam-packed with great content. Listen up. We got Ron back on nights. Here we are in 3, 2, 1. Pro Saints Talk coming at you.
Look at uptown people like yeah. People up in Gretna like yeah. Mid-city folks like yeah. People downtown man yeah.
Where you at, Whodats? And welcome to Pro Saints Talk. All hope is not lost, but we are going to break this one down for you. Even though it's late in the week, we do have to reopen the wound that happened this past Sunday in the Dome against Tampa and just the head-scratching moments of that game. And so we got our main men here to break it down for us. George, how we living, babe?
Ron, we're lavish as always, but I have to let all the Rons out there know. So our boy Ron is working nights. Our boy Ron woke up early in his relative to Ron, 3 o'clock in the afternoon to deliver to you, Rons, what you want to hear. So, hey, he's not going to have the best energy you're used to Ron having because he's normally our lifeblood. But given his dedication and his support to you and to the podcast, you're going to hear Ron come at you hard, 3 a.m. edition. So, Ron, we appreciate you for doing that for us. And then, Jay, tell the world where we are. Tell the world what we're celebrating.
George, I spent 7 years in the Northeast. I'm back in September, 71 degrees, rented a car on Turo.com, the Airbnb of car rentals. Check it out. I'm in Delaware. I'm about an hour away from Dewey Beach. Stat Ron, so many have contributed on this show. Campbell Robinson, nuptials, getting married tomorrow to a Delaware girl, on my way to celebrate. Ron, the last time I woke up at 2:45 was when I overslept a music class my freshman year of college. It was a real wake-up call.
Well, hey, anything for the Rons. George, I'm going to jump right in here. You look at this game this past Sunday by the numbers, and you keep looking, how did we lose this? How did we lose this? You only gave up 13 first downs. The Bucs had 1 rushing first down. If I would have told you that we were going to hold Brady to under 200 yards passing, he was going to get 1 touchdown, have a QB rating of 79. If I would have told you that we're going to hold the Bucs to 2.4 yards per carry on the ground. I mean, these are all things that are just adding up to victory. The defense bounced back. What the heck happened to the offense this past week, George?
Ron, let's just not do one thing. Let's not blame the refs. Let's not do that. Okay? Let's not blame the refs. It's too easy. Every WWL call all week long was to get into all that. That's foolish. Okay? Why we lost, I think the momentum really shifted on the Mark Ingram fumble. That was the only drive in the second half that had proper momentum. The only drive where it felt like, okay, we're in rhythm here. This is good play calling. Because every other drive we saw from Jameis, it was he would step back in the pocket and just throw. And you say, George, that's what a quarterback does. Not necessarily. And so many things that we just took for granted with Drew Brees was his ability to maestro the offense. The guy to just orchestrate the whole pre-snap, the play itself, and the execution of the offense. You're just not seeing that from Jameis. It's the little things that are all adding up to get our offense out of flow. Because like you just said, the defense played fantastic. The 3rd and shorts, the 4th and shorts, I think we stopped them every time. It was a blast to watch. Pete Werner looks like DeMario Davis Jr. out there. 2.0, they're like Kobe and Shaq. He's actually playing better than DeMario Davis thus far in the season. So there's a lot of negatives here. You know, after the Falcons game, you thought the Saints would come out week 2 and give you the second half performance from week 1, but really what they did was a full game of the week 1 performance. And I think the Buccaneers at this stage have as many questions as we do. What does Delaware Jay have to say?
Well, okay, I'll bring Jay in here because George, yeah, you touched on a lot. We said, hey, their wide receivers are going to be depleted going into this thing, and that was trending our way. And so I think those are a lot of the questions that the Bucs have on offense. But Jay, I guess just offensive game plan. We come out on this opening drive, and we are having some really good run schemes. I mean, just shredding them up the gut. And then you get into the red zone, and all of a sudden, Carmichael dials up. Pass, and it's 4th down, and we're kicking a field goal. And then the offense kind of sputtered until the second half when you got a similar game plan going, just to have that drive end in a fumble. I mean, I felt like there were encouraging things that we saw from Ingram, and then you get the fumble. I just don't know how to feel about this game when I'm looking at some of these drives, and I'm like, man, we either went 3 and out or we're gashing them on the ground. But in the end, we couldn't get enough points out there. So speaking of points, Jay, one of the things that was infuriating for some fans was the game planning at the end of the half. We are lined up for a potential 57-yard field goal, and DA shies away from it, playing field position, shying away. What do you think about that move right there?
Ron, I think as far as coaching goes and as DA is going and under the microscope following a guy like Sean Payton, I'm a little bit underwhelmed through 2 games. You got a game against Atlanta that you probably should have lost. And then you got a game against Tampa that you probably should have won. I understand the objective of what DA was trying to accomplish. He figured they're not getting anything on offense. Our defense is stopping them. It's 3-0. Let's not give them any momentum going into halftime in the case that Lutz misses this kick and they get the ball on their 47-yard line or wherever it is. So I understand his logic, but I disagree. I mean, Lutz has proved to be able to be a clutch kicker. I didn't understand that. I thought it was very conservative on DA's part, and I don't get it with the offense. Back to your point, Ron. I mean, where the last couple of drives where the Saints were trying to play catch up, and all of a sudden the floodgates were open, where they knew we'd be dropping 5-step drops. And their ears back, but I think for the most part, the offensive line played well. Ingram was having success up the middle. I just don't understand how are we not having success with the personnel that we have?
Why aren't we having success on offense? I mean, for a large majority of this game, we had 3 points to show for ourselves. Is it the offensive line, or was it Jameis's back injury?
I'd say it's Jameis protecting his back, whether it's conscious or subconscious. And I have to point the finger to Carmichael and the entire coaching staff. I feel like Carmichael needs to dial up plays to get Jameis in rhythm. Quick, easy outlet passes, quick flow plays. Him standing in the pocket and just going back to Buccaneers Jameis, where he just, hey, I'm going to sit in the pocket. I'm going to throw to somebody. It might be our team. It might be the DBs, but someone's catching it. Like you saw Jameis go back to Buccaneers Jameis and be exactly what Sean Payton was trying to get out of him. And I think we need – remember how Jameis looked the first few weeks of the season last year, and they kind of put it together by the Halloween game? We haven't really seen, aside from the fourth quarter of the Falcons game, we haven't seen the good Jameis at all this season. And a lot of that could be due to the injury, but maybe he wasn't as fully developed as we thought he was when we re-signed him going into the season. And the fact that he's playing hurt and getting those happy, nervous tendencies and feet again makes me wonder whether or not a healthy Dalton would be better. And I'm not saying, have a quick leash, or I'm not saying that, I don't be too knee-jerk here. But if Jameis is actually injured and thinking about protecting himself more so than running the offense, whether that's subconscious or not, then it may be in the offense's best interest to get Dalton in there, who looked fantastic over the preseason.
Well, yeah, no, I don't think it's knee jerk if he's dealing with a legitimate injury that's affecting his accuracy. Jameis is already not anywhere near Drew Brees levels of accuracy. And to me, I was noticing it even on the completions when he's going in the 5 to 10 yard range last weekend and he's hitting every receiver at the knees and we can't get a single yard after the catch. I mean, sometimes you do that intentionally to protect the receiver, when they're going on a slant. You don't want to lead them so much that they get their head chopped off. But this was just every ball was just in the dirt. And then when he got to the next level, like that 10 to 20 yard range, he's sailing everything. And how many times are we going to try to force the ball to Olave on the post route? And look, he was open, but just not even close every time. So to me, I think it's a tangible thing because that's one thing that Jameis should and can bring to the table is a good deep ball. And when that wasn't hitting, I'm thinking, man, the back is really affecting him. And then George, you're saying, oh, well, give him a little opportunity so he's not just a sitting duck in the pocket. I'd argue he looked terrible getting out of the pocket. I mean, aside from the one play where
Wait, Ron,
Michael Thomas, aside from the one play where Michael Thomas like makes your incredible toe touch grab on the sideline, dude, he looked like he was very uncomfortable getting out of the pocket, and I think that's a lot of his back injury and the mobility.
I wasn't saying that in reference to protecting him. I was saying that in reference to get him going, get the offense moving down the field. That first down incompletion, now 2nd and 10, then second and completion, now 3rd and 10. We had so many of those. We haven't had that since Aaron Brooks, where it's just like back-to-back incompletions where the offense never got out of its own way and never got into the ability to get the ball down the field.
Well, all I was saying was when you got a back injury, moving and throwing is even harder.
Right. I mean, for a lot of reasons, it needs to get simplified and easier.
Something's not adding up. Something's not adding up to me about this back injury. Like, we all know the Saints tried to go get Deshaun Watson. We all know, like, it seems like we love Jameis on the outside. We want him to do really well, but something seems like they're not entirely confident the guy can win a Super Bowl. Yet, like, where did this story come from on the back injury? I heard it was from his agent. And if he legitimately has a back injury, you would think him versus Dalton, the way Dalton looked and the way the Saints have operated in pursuing other quarterbacks, then if the trainers are telling them that, look, this guy is messed up, then they would have put Dalton in against the Buccaneers, especially with the type of game it is where you need to score potentially 10 points to win if you don't have 5 turnovers. And even with a back injury, he was still throwing the ball 60 yards in the air on more than one occasion. So I don't know, something's a little bit weird to me about where that story came from, how legitimate that injury is.
I mean, there's definitely speculation of that. It was a classic an hour before the game, Jay Glazer special. I'm pretty sure that's how we found out that Sean Payton was retiring or something. So, I mean, it's just one of those things that, yeah, you don't know if it's self-preservation of, maybe his agent's like, oh crap, Jameis contract year, like he needs to be protected a little bit. Maybe have something to fall back on for why he's not performing. Who knows? I'm just going
pun intended going wrong.
I'm just saying from a sheer performance perspective, I don't think there's any storyline here other than, man, if you can't make the throws, you can't make the throws. So, I mean, we talked about this when Brees was the quarterback, and was he doing us a disservice by staying in there and being the tough guy? Like, at some point, you got to recognize, man, I'm not doing what's best for the team here. So, I don't know. I'm not even going to really go into the fourth quarter too much, George, because I just think we saw bad Jameis.
I want to go into that point. You see this in sports all the time. And when a guy's injured and then wants to be a good leader and stay out on the field for his team, I understand and appreciate that. Yet there are times, and maybe this is one of them, in which your backup is better than a healthy you. And you're doing your team the best service by sitting out to let a healthy Andy Dalton perform better than a injured Jameis. And I fully understand, like when you're sick and you go to work anyway, I fully understand what Jameis is trying to do, be a great leader, be there for the team, but it might be him trying to help the team and yet hurting it. And you see this in sports all the time. You have depth for a reason. You keep Jimmy Garoppolo on the Niners for a reason. So this is going to be
the other dynamic, George, is the story of Wally Pipp. And don't think that Jameis doesn't realize, too, that there's a guy behind him that's been to multiple Pro Bowls that look good in the preseason. So he realizes, too, that if he were to sit out and AKA be the bigger teammate, that there's a chance that he's not getting that job back.
But that's not we can't think from his shoes. You have to think from the management shoes, from the coach's shoes. Yeah, of course Jameis is going to think that. But I'm saying if you're Allen, if you're Carmichael, if you're Loomis, if you're Ireland, you have to look at it that way.
Yeah, I mean, I'm looking at it from Ron's way. I mean, I just don't think that we can win like this. If he's going to be this inaccurate, I don't know. Maybe Kamara's going to come in this week and save the day. Maybe we'll see a completely different Jameis. The good news is they said that it was a good day at practice today. Kamara's back. Adebo's back. They said Jameis participated and everything looked like he was getting a little bit better. I mean, that's my biggest concern is I don't know how long this drags out, man. And we already talked about the offensive line. Like, are they going to be able to protect him enough to let him heal? Or is this thing just going to continue to degrade over the season and we're going to be limping through for 15 more weeks? So that's my biggest concern going forward. But again, good day from the
Ron,
practice report.
Give us the half full.
I'd say the half full is good day at practice today. Kamara's coming back. Adebo's coming back. I didn't even get a chance to talk about Lattimore and Mike Evans. Guess we can devolve into that conversation. But I guess that's your half full, Jay, is you're going to Carolina, a team that's struggling worse than we are at the quarterback position and looking highly vulnerable. Easy win for the taking. If we just come in and handle our business and we're back to 2-1 and the outlook totally changes, it's probably funny for people to be listening to this podcast and listen to us after 1-0 and after 1-1 and the sky is already falling here. So Jay, I don't know. You got any more of a half full than that?
Yeah. I mean, the sky was falling for me terribly Sunday, but then Sunday night into Monday, you take a step back, you realize that it's a 17-game season. You realize that the Bucs have the second best odds to win the Super Bowl. You realize that the wounds were self-inflicted. You had 5 turnovers, and you really should have won the game. So that part of it is encouraging. You look at the schedule, Carolina, Minnesota, Seattle. I wouldn't call at Carolina easy. It's never been, but you got 3 winnable games coming up, and hopefully this offense can start to figure it out. I think the other glass half full, Ron, is that the defense, after the concerns that we had in week 1, they came out and they stifled the Bucs. The run defense was a lot better. As you mentioned, you're getting Adebo back next week. Lattimore continues to start really well and play really well against Mike Evans. And the NFC, as we've said before, is wide open. So that's half full. That's the 11-6 look at it instead of 6-11. And I think if they can go into Carolina, I think it'll be important to start fast early, because that's a team that when an opponent has scored at least 17 points on them, I think through rules tenure, they're like 1-27 or something. And the whispers are starting to get a lot louder about Matt Rule to Nebraska, Matt Rule to Arizona State. So you get that doubt in their head and you win this game by double digits. Tepper all of a sudden might be talking to Matt Rule after week 3 about taking that Nebraska job. Whereas if you look at their last 2 games, they lost by 4 to New York, a pesky Giants team. They lost by last-second field goal on the hands or on the foot of Cade York, rookie from LSU in week 1. So it's not like they haven't competed. It's a defense that's given us trouble in the past. but I think it's a juncture of the season where what a launching pad for either team going forward. And if we can get up on them early and remove all hope, then I think it puts us in a good position for the rest of the game and the rest of the season.
Yeah, George, I mean, looking at the schedule at the start of this year, I mean, would you have taken 2-1 when you saw 3 division games right out of the gates?
You're a fool if you say no. I mean, we like to go full Ron and pound our chest, say dominate division 3-0. That's not how the world works. So of course you go 2-1 in your division. You're happy with that. And like Jay said, I think you rule the day. You take advantage of the Panthers because they are in this who are we, what are we mode right now with Baker coming in this late in the season, Rule leaving probably within the half-year mark to pull a Bobby Petrino and leave mid-season. This is the time to jump on them. But it's going to get tough because you have Panthers division, so it's never that easy, right? The division games are always tough. They know you well. It's going to be a close game. It's just never that easy. But then you go to London, and then you come back versus Seattle. And it's 3 easy opponents. The Vikings aren't that easy, but they're not that hard. So you should go on a little winning streak here. But I just think it's such a juggernaut to throw in that London game in the middle of it. Are they looking at that London game? Are they going to be jet lagged from that London game? So you have to win this game in order to make the next 3 games successful because you hate to go to London 1 and 2 and then have to play a pesky Seahawks team when you get back in town. And going back to big picture, every time you go play in London, you ought to have a bye. It's just foolish to have to play.
I agree.
The next home week.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's crap. And, it's par for the course, man, for the Saints fans that always feel targeted by the NFL here. So, George, I mean, you said something there that kind of sparked my interest of Panthers are still trying to find their identity. I mean, there's a lot of Saints fans that would say the Saints are still trying to find their offensive identity. So
and defensive. Honey Badger is more like Jarius Byrd than he's like Darren Sharper.
Whoa, dude!
Can we not say that name? All right,
no, I was saying like you're gonna do my dog like that. Dude,
yeah,
okay,
that's a defense that gave up. I know they were depleted at receiver, but it's not like Brady was throwing it all over the yard. He certainly isn't what he once was, George, as far as
a game changer.
Pass off and bringing it back to the kid zone. But
the amount of hoopla that came with him is so far removed.
You know how to sort through that. I mean, the guy's story, being where he's from, the NFL career he's had, the casual fan's gonna get stuck in the Hollywood of it all, where really he's more of a field general, get guys lined up, make the right play, not gonna kill you type guy than he is game changer, taking pick sixes back to the house.
Yeah, I mean, George, I don't know what you're expecting from him, but yeah, he struggled in Atlanta because, like Jay highlighted, I mean, he's not the kind of safety that's going to come up and take on a guy like Cordell Patterson. But hey, he didn't shy away; he was in there. So to me, he's all effort, and that's going to come with some big plays as the season goes on.
I would say I was expecting more than what Malcolm Jenkins brought the last 2 years, and that's exactly what he's bringing.
Oh, I don't know that I was expecting any more than what Malcolm Jenkins brought to us. I mean, Jenkins was really serviceable for us.
Yeah, I expected more than that.
Well, okay, bro. You're not going to get freaking like Heisman season.
No, I was wrong.
Where the ball just finds him every play.
The question, going back to what the question was, I'm wrong all the time. I'm just saying, and I think a lot of the Saints fans, obviously, because they thought with their hearts and not their brains, that they expected more than what you're going to get out of them. And the opposite is true for Juice Landry. I know he didn't have a great week 2, but he looked phenomenal week 1. And I thought he would be just above serviceable, whereas he's looked fantastic. The one thing we do need to talk about is Olave. That connection, boy, that looked like Philionopolis and Chris Baldwin and Hurst Field. They couldn't get anything down right between Winston and Olave. And once they did, our boy fumbled. I know he's young and he has growing pains, but if we're going to win games like that, and I don't know if you really blame it on Olave, but that fumble, sheesh.
Yeah, no, that was just insult to injury at that point in the game. So that's why I didn't even care about it so much. Just felt like, yeah, they clearly knew they had something where he could get behind the defense and just couldn't connect on it until that last one. And honestly, it was like I said, it was a bit of a moot point at that point in the game. But George, I was gonna try to rope this back to you said the Panthers still trying to find their identity, and I was saying how I kind of think the Saints are still trying to find their offensive identity. I mean, we're trying not to panic here 2 weeks in, but I mean, take out the fourth quarter of each of these games, and we ain't doing crap on offense, man. So I think Jay is 100% right I mean, as always, in the sense that we've
As
got to get
always.
we've got to get on the board early in this one. We've
Mhm.
got to have a good drive that we finish in the red zone. Just get that confidence and momentum because you're right, George. You got all this talent on this offense. It's almost like it just needs to be unlocked. It needs to just be properly utilized and given the right kind of confidence. And then I
Well,
really do
Ron,
think what.
okay, you have all this talent. If you have talent and not production, who do you blame?
Well, I don't want to be like this, but that ball's got to get in my talented players'
No,
hands.
it goes bigger than that. It's the
I
coaching.
know you're going to try
I,
to say coaches. I know you're
but
going to
dude,
try to say coaches,
I
but
say
when
Carmichael.
Jameis is missing or when the offensive line ain't blocking, those are things that are preventing me from getting the ball in my talented playmakers' hands.
I think Carmichael needs to adjust accordingly. And, we've seen a good bit of 15-yard penalties. I mean, now Lattimore has developed a reputation as a hothead. And what Chauncey Gardner-Johnson used to do to Chicago Bear wide receivers, you're going to start seeing other teams do to Lattimore to to entice those 15-yard penalties. Um, and with that being said, Dennis Allen all offseason, oh, he's loose. He's easygoing. He's so much easier to get along with than Sean Payton. Well, part of coaching and management is all about when to loosen, when to tighten. And I feel like right now is a great time for DA to come in, tighten the screws, and go on a little win streak here.
So, okay, I do want to touch on that little piece of that just a little bit because I feel like as the week has gone on for me, I've cooled off a little bit on Lattimore. Like when you really recreate that event, and maybe Jay can chime in on this, like he really was a little bit of a victim in that scenario. And I did agree with Deuce post game about like, man, you've got Brady talking in his face, you got Lattimore pushing him. Like, of course, he's gonna push back. So I give him a way bigger pass in that scenario than the Atlanta game. I mean, the Atlanta game, he was literally trying to lose the game for us. I think he was a little bit of a victim of the circumstance, but you're right, George. Like he let that get to him. He is weak minded, in my opinion. Like he is just, oh, I got to stand up for myself. Like I ain't no bitch, like whatever. But that kind of crap, you're right, is going to lose us a game. I mean, heck, you could argue that it did lose us this game this past week. Losing him was way more important than the Bucks losing Mike Evans in that game. And you saw it when you give up the touchdown to Perriman over PJ Williams. So, Jay, I mean, what do you do with a player like that as our resident guy who's actually worked for a football team?
I'm not going to overreact to it because I think Evans can say all that he wants about defending Tom Brady, but I think in his heart of hearts, Evans was pissed off because he was getting his lunch eaten again by Lattimore, where he was really the only threat in the receiving core. I mean, they tried to throw to Scotty Miller about 10 times, probably dropped 5 of them, the Bowling Green product. But I think Evans was pissed off, and it's hard for me to really blame Lattimore when a guy comes off the sideline for the second time in several years and blows you up. I can't blame him for trying to tackle the guy, and I don't think he should have gotten thrown out. But am I going to disagree with you that he's got a big ego and sometimes isn't always thinking team first? Yeah, I agree with you, but obviously you take that when you have somebody of his capability, and I think it's going to be a big boost getting the Debo back. And back to George's point, I'm not only talking about being underwhelmed with DA as far as not kicking a field goal at the end of the half or some of the other things that happened in Atlanta. I think that he's responsible for Carmichael. And with the complexity of the Saints offense and with a guy that is as savvy and smart as Breeze is and how he made it look so effortless, you've got to coach to your personnel. And if you have a guy that Jameis arguably more talented than Breeze physically, or at least throws it farther, does a lot of things better, but may not have the mental capability that Breeze does, then you've got to, you can't just jam a square peg into a round hole and say, yeah, here's the same playbook. I mean, you've got to find out what works for him, and it is on the coaches to get it to those, make sure those guys are getting the football. Like I thought it was a good play call the first play of the game when they threw the screen for 3 yards to the fullback. I mean, that's what the effort was there, was trying to get the rhythm going. And where is the running back screen?
We lost you, Jay. But what we're trying to say is that's not James. There he's back.
Johnson.
He's highlighting the screen game is not there, and that has been that's been a staple for the last 16 years in this offense. So yeah, that's a huge gap in my opinion. Okay, George, question from our favorite listener right now, at least, the liability, and it's on this theme. So if you got one thing that you're going to change this week to make the offense more effective in Carolina, what's it going to be?
I answered in person to the liability. I told him coaching. I feel like we've beaten that down. Here's what I'm going to say. And you're going to say, George, you're so predictable. Clickbait. Clickbait has been the only reliable offense we've had this season. And he's gotten too predictable because every time he's gotten the ball in his hands, he's run from direct snap. Of course, he's caught passes, whatnot. But keep the defense honest by creatively have him throw, creatively have him pitch, because right now they're just having all 11 men focused in on clickbait when the snap goes to him because it's been one play every time. But now, have him snap it and then do a quick wide receiver bubble screen, have him snap it, or even run an offensive pass play. There's things that we can do with clickbait because it's been working and defense have been keying in on them. Use that to your advantage.
On clickbait, popped up on the injury report today with a rib injury. I believe that's the same one that so I'm just saying, we were talking about this on the walk into the Dome Sunday. You can talk all you want about using Taysom more. It is there is a limit to that equation because he is going to get hurt and he's not going to make it through the 17-game season. So it's delicate of how you want to use them, when you want to use them. So I think they were doing a good job of that in week 1. I'm with you, George. I wanted to see a little bit more in week 2. We'll see what happens in week 3 here. I think everyone's aligned, though, that we need to see some passing because otherwise that little gimmick of power right's gonna fade out pretty quick.
And develop a proper run game. Ingram looked all right other than the fumble. Like that fumble was a bad
dude. I mean, the drives that they wanted to run the ball, I thought that they were opening up massive holes up the middle of that defense. So, I mean, I really wasn't too worried about the run game. I thought they got that going really well. Ingram's just got to stop freaking fumbling.
Dude, 2 games, 2 fumbles.
Yeah, unacceptable from a freaking veteran, dude. So, all right, going into Carolina, Jay, Saints fans might remember last year, pretty sure it took about a 10-yard Hail Mary pass from Jameis where he just said he put it up and trusted God. So, I mean, this team has been scrappy for us. It's only a 2.5 spread. I don't want to spoil Godfather's segment here, but let's get some game predictions. What are we thinking in Carolina this week?
George, I think you will see more variation with Taysom. They ran that fake jet sweep to Deontay. I think as the season goes on, there's going to be more that goes off of it. I see the Saints win, Saints cover 20-16.
Damn, Jay's got Saints covering. Okay, George, what do we got?
We got Saints covering 20-16 in one of those hard-fought divisional games that is never pretty. There's not going to be those huge home run pretty, Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen drives. It'll be one of those gritty games that you just eke out a win. Doesn't matter who the Panthers are right now. Doesn't matter that their coach is on the hot seat. Doesn't matter that their quarterback is Baker Mayfield and he's kind of the floor of what you thought his expectations would be as a Panther. It's a divisional team. They still have Brian Burns. He just seems to eat our lunch. They still have Christian McCaffrey. They have J.C. Horn, who looked great against us last year, but our boy Joe Horn's son. There's still enough there to ruin your day. So don't be naive and get upset that we don't blow them out. And I still don't think we're going to be happy with our offensive performance. I think we have a long way to go to get in proper rhythm. But I do think we eke it out because we are top to bottom a better team than the Carolina Panthers.
Wow, I'm gonna go 20-16. No. Y'all on the same page this week. That's fair. Okay, I'll give you all that.
Come on, Coach. I'm 2-0. George noticed it.
Well,
Yeah.
Ron, it would be fun if we all went 20-16.
No, I'm going 17-16. I think the Panthers cover this one. George, I'm right there with you. Rome is not going to be built in a day. I think we're still going to struggle a little bit offensively to get going here, but I think the defense continues to play well enough to hold our opponent down. And yeah, I could see this one coming down to the defense maybe staving off a game-winning drive from Baker here. So
Ron,
Ron, this is a Pro Saints Talk podcast.
And I got the Saints winning for the
That's
third
my
week
boy.
in a row.
All season long. That's my dog, Ron. I've never picked against the Saints. That's the whole fun of it. Hey, we have to give the microphone metaphorically to our boy, Big Comfy, our boy, Craig, the Freemason. He's the conspiracy theory here. He knows a lot of people in New Orleans. Jay, Ron, we know a lot of people in New Orleans. Does anyone know anybody to have ever won the Dome's 50-50 raffle?
I'm hearing crickets, George.
Crickets, man. I think I'm beginning to think Big Comfy may be on to something here. It's just like that Monopoly conspiracy where it's preordained to somebody or no one's actually winning. It's all going to Gale's pockets. Is the winner too drunk to recognize his winning ticket? Very curious to see how my boy's investigation wraps up. Where's Lee Zurich when you need him?
That's what I'm saying.
I just looked it up. I looked it up from last week. The 50-50 raffle was a guy named Jay Romick won it. I don't know his
Oh, don't you put that evil on a
affiliation.
good fella. Don't you put that evil on Jay Rope. He's a very good fella.
love you, Jay. Love you, Jay.
Jay, a fun one, a really wild one here going, back shift. We got you on the East Coast and Delaware. Say hey to Joe Flacco fans up there for us. Any final thoughts for the fans? And also let's send some final love to the stat Ron Campbell.
Yeah, I just saw Joe Biden sign, Biden's home state. This is not a political podcast. And I saw Trump sign, they even it out. Congratulations to Campbell, great person, a great friend that we've always considered like a little brother. Look forward to celebrating him this weekend. And Who-Dats, let's be a part of watching the 3:00 slate, Sunday Night Football, the Sunday night game, the Monday night game, with wonderful anticipation of watching the highlights of the Saints kicking the Panthers' ass. All right, we're going to get back on it. We're taking the RV to the Super Bowl. Let's go. A little bit of confidence, a little bit of swagger rolling in there to Carolina. Let's step on Matt Rule, send him to college. I don't wish anybody to lose their job, but I think he's got a good one lined up. So I think this is going to be it. I could see it 2016, Ron. I could also see him floodgates opening up 38-10. Matt Rule, you're out of here. Who dat?
Woo! All right, Jay. All right. Hey, George had to pop off. So for Jay, for George, Pro Saints Talk, we out here, baby.
Out the crack house, the Grim Reaper. try to blow my back out, you feel me? Is there a heaven for a thug with thug ways? I'm searching for some better days. Papa was a rolling stone, Papa wasn't home. Me, moms, and the kids were stuck at home. I said, fuck that, I'ma get paid. I'ma get me and take to the streets and work my way to a key, cause I'm a hustler. Jack of the Jaggers, make moves with thugs, make moves when niggas show me love. I'm from New Orleans, yeah, we be ballin'. Listen to the lyrics, boy, the streets.
Good morning, good afternoon, and to some of you, good night. This is a national following that football, that whatever you want to call that Thursday night travesty, tragedy, abomination. Following that nonsense, this is a national day of mourning for the degenerate nation. Whatever that our good friend of ours, Mr. Van Pelt, the pitchy woo woo in the end zone, it destroyed everybody. What else I know you all bet the Thursday night game, because what else are you gonna do? I mean, Christ, it destroyed alternate lines, it destroyed teasers, it destroyed the McAfee boost. Like that little gimp, that little vegetable, Timmy, in the Scrooge book. God bless us all, degenerate nation. God bless us all, everyone. But let's move on. We're 7-3 to start the year. 7-1 in games not involving Jameis Winston. So we're gonna leave that one alone. I'll let the experts, Ron, Jay, and George, break that one down for you. But I'm not touching that one with a 10-foot pole this week. All right, here we go. We got a little mixed bag. Let's start off with our brethren to the east. Our sworn enemy, the Atlanta Falcons. I really, really like what I've seen. Like I said last week, I really like what I've seen from those Dirty Birds. They're playing hard. They're playing hard in the trenches. Mariota is a pain in the ass, a royal pain in the ass. You got Patterson. They're playing hard for this coach. The defense is playing well. They're going to Seattle. Look at Geno Smith. Other than the revenge game against Russell Wilson, he's garbage. I told you guys to take the under. I said they wouldn't score any points. They basically didn't. We cashed that under last week. We're going to cash it again this week, but we're going to take the side. We're taking the Falcons. Right now it's +1. I would get to the window with that one ASAP, because everyone's going to be the wise guys in Vegas and all yous are going to be on them. So let's get the Falcons. Let's just take the money line. You might as well at this point. It's only +1. All right. Garbage time. Colts +5.5. They have looked like absolute dog shit. Why are we taking them? Why are we taking them against a Chiefs team that's looking pretty good, right? I mean, they massacred the frauds in Arizona. They looked okay last week. I mean, I think they got every break that they could have gotten on Thursday night at home against the Chargers with the guy with his ribs and he couldn't breathe. I think they dropped like 5 or 6 interceptions. The Chargers did, and they still managed to cover them. This is a must-win spot for the Colts. They got to win. They're one of the favorites in the AFC South. This is a must-win. I think you're going to get their best foot forward this week. They are going to play smash-mouth football with Kansas City. It's like, the Saints in the Sean Payton era with that offense. Whenever we had to go, when that offense was purring and we had to play somebody that was going to control the ball, control the clock, move the chains, punch us right in the mouth. We never had fun with those games. And I don't think the Chiefs are going to have fun over there at the RCA Dome or whatever it is they call it over there. Give me the Colts plus the 5.5. let's go to Foxborough. The Patriots. They got on the board last week, but they still stink. They just, I think Belichick is over the hill. The Ravens have been impressive. They should have. It was a fluke. What happened there in their fourth quarter last week? It was an absolute fluke. It was a joke. I think Dobbins will be back this week for them. Give me the Baltimore Ravens. They're only laying 2.5 right now, so you're outside that 3. They could only win by 3. They could win by 7. I think they win, and I think they win by more than a score. Give me the Ravens minus 2.5. Another team that just fell apart last week. Vegas. Viva Las Vegas. We all saw that Titans team. That Titans team is I think it's done. I think I know they were the 1 seed last year, but I think they've squeezed all the toothpaste they can out of that tube. Tannehill is not an upper echelon NFL quarterback. I think it's Derrick Henry looked like he was running in quicksand. They got nobody to throw the ball to anymore. Defensively, they couldn't, they couldn't cover Jay. They couldn't cover George. They couldn't cover Ron. They couldn't cover the Godfather. I think Devontae Adams goes bananas. Raiders win big. All right. Finally, let's go to probably the Fox game of the week. If I had to guess, we got the Pack. And the Bucks. I think we all saw in the Dome last week that's just right. They always get Tom Brady teams. They always get better as the year goes on. September is never their prime. But right now, I just don't think they're a very good offense. I don't think they're a very good football team. They got bailed out in more ways than you could ever dream last week. It seemed like every time you turn around, the Saints did something, and then there was laundry all over the field. One of the worst officiated games. Yes, Jameis did not play well. Probably one of the worst officiated games I've ever seen. I heard something, that little punk Hockley, he's not even a quarter of the man his dad was. He's somewhere on pace. He's on pace to shatter the records for calling personal fouls in a single season. I think the record for officials is like something like 30. And through 2 weeks, he's got like 20. He totally changed the game. I mean, they were just throwing flags for no reason, left and right. Obviously, the turnovers didn't do us any favors, but that is not a good Bucs team. And while the Pack don't have any receivers, Aaron Rodgers is still doing his thing. This is a revenge spot for A-Rod. I don't think he's taking any mushrooms or acid on Sunday. So give me the Pack, plus the 1.5. All right, let's keep this streak going. Hopefully we can get a little Godfather parlay going with these 5. We've been close, absent the Saints, so we're gonna leave them alone. But let's go win some money here in week 3. All right, there. You guys have a good weekend, Degenerate Nation. Bye-bye.